In the 1930s, a small factory in the name of Tęcza, or Rainbow in Polish, was established in the city of Krakow, Poland. They produced art supplies, paints, inks, crayons, watercolors, and the works. The year is 1939. World War II has begun. The family who owned this company hid away their inventory in the hopes of reopening shop after the war. Unfortunately, that didn't end up happening. Instead, 30 full crates of watercolor pens in assorted colors remained hidden away for nearly a century. In comes a woman named Klara from Warsaw, Poland. She sees the paints listed for sale online by the descendants of those who once had a vision of taking the art world by storm. Clara, who has an Etsy store by the name A Large Aviary, selling handbound sketchbooks and vintage cameras, decided to take it upon herself to give these nearly 100-year-old paints a chance to finally have their time in the spotlight. If this is your first time on my channel, hello, welcome. My name is Juli Rocks, and I absolutely love working with vintage art supplies. I've got a small collection going that I've retrieved from thrift stores, Facebook Marketplace, alternative art shops, and now Etsy. I also enjoy making my own art supplies and just talking about art subjects related to pursuing an artistic hobby as an adult, along with the highs and lows that come with it. As soon as I came across these paints on Etsy, I could not get them out of my mind. What a wild story, and what a cool find. Imagine coming across crates of 100-year-old watercolor paints with such an intriguing history, and being the person to give these beautiful paints a second chance to fulfill their purpose. If you've been following my channel for a while now, you know how I feel about vintage art supplies, what they stand for, why I adore them so much, and truthfully, I am a little jealous of Miss Clara for coming across this treasure and being the person to redistribute these paints. Moreover, I'm elated that she decided to do this, because I and so many others are now able to experience the pure joy of working with Tęcza paints. Pardon my pronunciation, and feel free to correct me down below if I'm saying it wrong. Vintage art supplies are so special in so many ways. First of all, they come with a story. Or if you're not able to find any information about a thrifted supply, they come with an implied story clouded in mystery. They're also incredibly unique because they're no longer being made in the same way or at all. They're truly a piece of history. Vintage supplies are so exciting to come across because they're like finding a needle in a haystack. And of course, there's the environmental factor. Buying used always trumps buying brand new when it comes to environmental impact. There are just so many reasons to love vintage supplies, and they just feel so special to use in an art piece.
Ooh. Whoa. That is gorgeous. I love it. Look at that. That's so beautiful. Oh my gosh. What a gorgeous color. Okay, this is my favorite so far. I don't know if I'm gonna end up swatching all of them because I'm quite lazy when it comes to swatching, but I'll try to do all the fun colors, which of course is entirely subjective. Also, if you're new here, I don't like using a fresh sketchbook page just to swatch, so... Oh, this one's pretty too. I normally use something that has art on it, or just a page full of sketches. But I actually really like this piece, though I don't think swatching around it will take away from how much I like it, so... Okay, that is stunning. Are you joking? What a unique color. This is such a unique color, is it not? Beautiful. So beautiful. Okay, I already know this is gonna be a stunning color. Look at that. That's gonna be like a nice deep sort of cherry red. Oh, okay, wait, hold on. I will swatch this one right next to her face. Ooh. Oh, that is pretty. Look at that. That is such a gorgeous color. I love it. Whoa, I really like this one. Okay, for something that's 100 years old, these are really pigmented and very well preserved. I really thought they would all be quite faded, but the fact that they're this pigmented is very impressive. Oh, this is another dark blue. See how it looks. Oh, that's also a really nice color. Wow, I like it. It's similar to the other dark blue I like, but not identical. I don't know if you could tell the difference between these two here. This one's a bit lighter. The surprising thing is that there are no yellows in this set, which, I don't know. That'll make it difficult to mix colors. I might need to use my own yellow. We have a cherry red, but it's more of a pink red. We have a few blues, but no yellow. That is going to be interesting, won't it?
With these Tencha paints, I decided to paint over a piece that I actually sketched in my sketchbook based on a reference photo by @theiconic_K on Instagram. It's of a woman hanging by a tennis court with a bottle of Coke in her hand. Something about the colors of the paint just seems so well suited to the reds and greens of the reference photo. I used my Canson mixed media sketchbook for this piece, like I do for most of the pieces I film. However, seeing how beautiful and vibrant the colors are on the piece of watercolor paper that actually came with the set for swatching purposes, I'm realizing that maybe this was a mistake. In fact, I'm thinking back at all those times I tested out watercolor paints in this Canson sketchbook, and now I wonder if they would have been given a more fair shot on proper watercolor paper. The watercolors I work with are my Mei Liang watercolor paints, and I like how they work on Canson mixed media paper. But the other day I tested 40-year-old Strathmore watercolor paper, and I must say, it was nice working with a sketchbook made for watercolors. Okay, I know this doesn't seem like a big deal at all, but think about the moment when you realize your go-to supplies, la creme de la creme of your art life, might no longer be cutting it. I truly don't know how to process this. Should I prep myself for a mini artist identity crisis? How dramatic. The reason I bring this up is because some areas of the art piece where I may have gone a little too crazy with my layering turned out a bit cloudy. And I've had this issue with the vintage Pentel paints I got off of Facebook Marketplace, along with the Artify set I found at Value Village ages ago, the 60-year-old Grand Boucher paints I picked up from a local charity shop, and so on. And maybe this was never the issue with the paints to begin with. Perhaps it's my paper. Mixed media paper is obviously not as absorbent as true watercolor paper. It's thinner, it buckles more easily. So maybe next time I reach for these paints, I'll just have to reach for some nicer paper to match. Paper that's actually built for the medium, like doi. Oh my gosh. Older paints also use different technology in their manufacturing process. And maybe that's why I don't experience this clouding as often with modern day watercolors. I'm just assuming they didn't have the same level of mulling power in their equipment to fully incorporate the pigment into the binder. So maybe that's why. Maybe that's why they float on top of the paper more so than getting absorbed into it. I don't know. I'm just guessing based on my very basic homemade watercolor paint experience. I found that my homemade watercolors had this feature, but like times 10 because I was very lazy with my mulling. So they were just very hard to work with. Anyways, let me know your thoughts on all of this. I did end up using the yellow pan from my DIY Altoid tin of paints, the ones that I purchased at the alternative art store I took you to recently, because there just wasn't any yellow in the Tencha set. But aside from that, there is a nice range of colors to pick from. A couple looked very close in hue, like a couple of the oranges and pinks. My favorite colors are Storm, which is the deep navy blue color, Something about it is just so unique and delicious. Rose, the mauve pink color, just gorgeous. Meadow, which is the teal/emerald green color, and Bonfire, a cool orange. I don't even know what to say. Just que delicia.
I'm feeling good about this. Normally my skin tones just don't turn out right and I start panicking, but I took a few deep breaths. I approached it slowly and methodically, and so far, I think this is working out pretty well. Like, I feel like I have the foundation to actually create something really great, or at least something that looks like skin tone. If I F it up at this point, I'm gonna be really sad because this actually took a while. This took about an hour. So I've been at it for an hour so far, which I know it doesn't look like it, but here we are. Creating a piece of artwork, even if it's something simple like this, takes a lot longer than you'd expect. But at the same time, time flies because, you know, you're having fun.
After spraying the paints with water to liven them up, they just melted onto my paintbrush. It was truly so satisfying to witness, and for something that's nearly a century old, like seriously, like 95 years old, I entirely assumed it would take a while to activate these paints with water. I also assumed the vibrancy of the colors would be lost or muted. Nope and nope. I am so wildly impressed by these paints and how they've held up beautifully over the years. I'm telling you, these paints were just dying to be used. They were dying to be used, and oh my gosh, did they hold their own. Now, I try not to be so precious with my vintage art supplies. Art supplies are, of course, say it with me, meant to be used, after all, not just collected. So although I have a vintage art supply collection, it is what I consider a dynamic one. I reach for the vintage supplies like I do my regular art supplies. But because I've never quite owned anything this old, I will be honest, it did take a few deep breaths before I actually went in and activated these paints. Especially because they have such a beautiful logo on each side. It broke my heart a little bit, melting that down to nothing. Especially because you just don't really see that feature on watercolor pans. At least here in North America. I don't know if it's more common in different countries, or I don't know if it's just a feature of a certain time period. But could you imagine if companies now just stamped their logo onto watercolor cakes? Oh, delicious. In terms of working with the paint, aside from the clouding, which I'm convinced was my own fault for using the wrong materials, they held up great. I found painting flat washes to be the most satisfying. Just look at the red surrounding this woman at the end. It looks so smooth and vibrant. I found these Tencha watercolors were slightly more opaque than my Mei Liang paints, not as much as my vintage Pentel paints. And this isn't a bad thing. Even with those Pentel paints, I quite enjoy the opaqueness and milkiness of them. It just makes them so much more satisfying to use and swatch out. And I do actually enjoy when my art supply surprises me. It wouldn't be as fun if all of my vintage watercolor sets acted the same way as my Mei Liang set. Every set is different, every set is a product of its time, and every company processes their colors differently.
Hey guys, I just cleaned off my palette because it was looking quite muddy. This is what I've got so far. I'm liking it so far. I think I did a pretty good job with her skin tones. I don't know if you could tell, but it is getting a bit cloudy just right here. And I did layer quite a few watercolors, so that's probably why. Honestly, I'm not sure if that's normal. I don't know if it's an issue with the paper. I don't know if it's the paints. It's probably the paints because this is not something I experience often, but I must say I did add layer upon layer upon layer right here. So I wonder if that has something to do with it. I'm gonna get the background colors sorted. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Aside from my slathering a sketchbook page with more paint than it could handle, I do actually really like the end result of this. I feel like I really painted her skin tone well in terms of capturing those different colors. And actually, I didn't have many good memories associated with this initial sketch because I really struggled to get the proportions right. It took so much erasing and redrawing, I didn't think I'd ever paint over it. But because the colors were just well suited for this piece, as in aside from the skin tone and hair, I didn't have to do much color mixing at all. So many of the colors in this Tencha watercolor palette was just so well matched to this piece, I had to use them to paint it. But after sitting so long as a sketch, I did decide to give this piece a go. I closed the reference photo and I just made adjustments with the sketch I already had in front of me. Sometimes I do this when I'm stuck, when I feel like a piece is too far gone to look like the reference because I just didn't get the proportion right in too many places, but I'm still able to work with it to turn it into a piece that makes sense. So I closed the reference photo and just made adjustments with the sketch that I had in front of me. The result, a person that, yes, looks like a person, thank goodness, but unfortunately does not resemble the woman in the reference photo. Her face looks completely different and some of her proportions are different as well. So my apologies to Iconic K. But thank you for posting this photo on Pinterest. I'm glad I came across it and it was so much fun to paint something that might not resemble you, but at least was inspired by you and your creativity in colors and your pose.
It's the next day, and you can see how muddy and cloudy it's getting. I don't know what this is. Oh, I think that's just a fiber from my paintbrush or something. I was gonna say, maybe it's because I use this blue color, because I thought, maybe it's a bit more opaque, but no, it looks fine here. It's just over here, it's looking a little strange. And I'll show you the difference. Like this here, ignore the fact that her skin is kind of green. I should have done the background a different color. That way her face would look less green, but here we are. For this one here, I used my vintage Pentel and Winsor & Newton paints. And I mean, it doesn't look so bad, does it? And then this here was with my Altoid paints, which is where I pulled this from. And that's from the alternative art store that I went to recently. You can see it's not cloudy. Maybe I just layered too much on top of each other. I was trying to get this area super dark like it is in the reference photo. Just so you have a better idea, this is with my Mei Liang paints. Like the colors look clear and vibrant and not muddy. And you go back here and it's like, ooh, what is going on? Granted, these are 100-year-old paints. I mean, they're working incredibly for something this old. I want to know what is happening here. So if there is like a proper phrase for this, if you know why this is happening, is it because of my lack of technique? Am I just using the wrong paper for these paints? I love my Canson Mixed Media sketchbook. I love it. Does it do these watercolors justice? I don't know. I just really like mixed media paper. I like how it behaves, but maybe this is a sign for me to venture out a little bit and try maybe a higher quality paper. Dun dun. Yeah, there are some interesting pieces in here in this sketchbook. And you know what? I think one day I'm gonna do like an ugly sketchbook tour. I'm gonna show you all of my worst pieces, in my opinion, and I don't know, maybe I'll try to do something to pretty them up. Let us carry on. That's a good angle. Oh, here's my Nespresso. Maybe like that. Or do you want to see from this view? Actually, I don't do this angle often. Maybe I'll do that. Okay.
I love that the colors in the set are so unique. I mean, there's a reason why certain pigments are popular to work with, like ultramarine blue, phthalo green, Payne's gray, yellow ochre, yada yada. If you've been working with paints for a while, you will know them like the back of your hand. They are the most versatile when combined. With them, you can create such a wide range of colors, and they're also more or less predictable. Sure, the colors may vary slightly between brands, but for the most part, you know what color recipes to use to create the hues that you want. But when you're hit with a unique color palette that makes you do a little bit of guesswork, there's just something fun and different about that. Even the vintage watercolors I've picked up over the years all have a similar range of colors. So it's nice to have something that's in a completely different wheelhouse. It only adds to the intriguing experience of using 100-year-old paints, which is already intriguing in itself. I felt the same way using the limited Altoid palette. I ended up with some bright, punchy colors that created such a fun range to work with, and it ended up changing the way I approached what I was painting. This is what I enjoy about vintage art supplies. They're just built differently. Using them becomes an experience in itself. If you're interested in these paints, Clara has a few different sets for sale. The one I have is the 19 color set, but there's also a 9 color set and some smaller 5 color sets. I'll link to her shop, a large aviary, down below. No, this is not sponsored. Absolutely not. I paid my way, and Clara has no idea that I'm making this video. But who knows? Maybe I will send her a link to it and say hello. I don't know. Would that be weird? We'll see. Anyways, in addition to loving the paints, I did actually order these a while back during a Canadian postal strike. And Clara was so on top of the situation. Customer service, 10 out of 10. Paints, 10 out of 10. I love them, and truly, I would not change a thing. Let me know if you decide to pick up a set, and if you do, let me know how you like them. Also, tell me about your favorite vintage supply you own if you have one. These paints are way up there, but I will say the Barrel Canadiana colored pencils I found from the 80s, brand spanking new at a thrift store, are my number one. They were the first vintage art supply I came across, and it was such a fun day spent with my sister because she actually asked to tag along with me while I drove all over town hunting for vintage supplies. It was so sweet to see her just as excited as I was when we found them. But 100-year-old Polish paints sheltered away due to the Second World War? Yeah, definitely a close second. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy this video, I recommend that you check out this one here, a video I posted recently working with 40-year-old Strathmore watercolor paper that actually had someone's art inside of it. And I also have another video that I posted not too long ago working with these 60-year-old Rambouillet paints that I also found at a thrift store. As always, the reference photos, supplies, and all mentioned videos will be linked in the description. And if you'd like to see me try these paints out on proper cotton watercolor paper, let me know as well. Or just stay tuned because I probably will eventually. Like, comment, subscribe, or don't, and just go for a walk, get some fresh air, relax. Until next time, stay creative and happy painting. Peace.
Love.